this character sounded like? Yes, Katie.
So I did Benedict Cumberbatch, and he plays Sherlock in Sherlock, and he sounds British. And I don't always like Sherlock, like his character, but I think his accent's pretty cool.
Yes, I think it's the first thing that most people notice. A British accent is very well beloved by most people. Alright, well, before we get into the activity we have for you guys, I'm going to talk a little bit about accents and why people have them. What are accents, and have you guys ever thought about why people change accents? Or why they drop accents, or why some people can move to a totally different place and then keep their accent for the rest of their life, even though other people can go somewhere for a day and then pick up an accent. It's very intriguing. And so first I want you guys to kind of think about how we've learned how the brain hears and how it processes sound. You guys remember it's very complex processes. And so we looked at a lot of different pictures and showed how different parts of the brain were activated. And a big reason why people have natural accents, why you will find certain accents are related to people in Tennessee or people of Italy or really anywhere. And that is because of the social associations that we make within our brain for speech. And so there's actually a lot of places like the amygdala, if you guys remember learning about that, where the brain not only will process the words that you hear, but they will also relate them to other times that you've heard it or other times you've heard the definition. And so you gain a bigger understanding, but then you also start to trail all of those together. And so then not only will you hear about the word and understand it, but you'll think about this other time you heard the word and the whole context around it. And that translates into accents because we hear it in specific ways, especially growing up. And this is really a driving force for why we speak the way that we do. And so here are a few different categories that really influence us. And so geographic location, like I said, Tennessee versus Italy versus Africa, or the language that you speak, that plays a big role. The home environment, the way that your parents speak, the way that maybe your grandparents or your uncles and aunts speak. Socioeconomic status. Does anyone know what this word means, socioeconomic? Yes.
I'm trying to put it into words. It's like your status within society, depending on the resources that you have access to.
Yes, very nice. That socioeconomic status in layman's terms would be where you fall on the scale of rich or poor. And so how often you maybe go to museums, or the people you get to interact with, the schools that you go to, all of those things that are available to you based on your social standing and your financial standing. And then also affiliations, the people that you see regularly. So even though your parents might speak one way, if you have friends that are, say, British, then you might start picking up their accent because they're around you often. And then also, I hope this was good to know, that a lot of studies have shown accents are viewed as a social skill. And so it's not just something that we do, but it's something that we do in relationships. And so we wouldn't talk the way that we did if we didn't have people around us that talked differently or talked the same. The brain wouldn't process it the same if it was just for us, but because it's in relationships, it's processed differently and is directly related to empathy. Because in order to talk like someone else, you have to almost put yourself inside their shoes and learn how they communicate, understand the differences, and then also how they hold themselves. And so that's our next point, is we're looking at the movement of the body, because it's not just how we process, but also how our brain tells our body to act out those words. And so I will mention some of this a little bit here, but Miss Caitlin is going to go more into depth about the importance of your body while you're speaking, especially when you're using different accents. But here are a few things that can change based on how you're speaking and what accent you're using. And this also ties directly into empathy, because if you remember, I said kind of stepping into someone's shoes. So it's talking like them, but then it's also using the way that they hold their body, the way that they use their mouth, and the way that they use their diaphragm in order to speak like them, in order to mimic that accent.
All right. And so these are some things to keep in mind and watch out for, especially in the activity that we're doing later, is to make sure you enunciate your words. Diction. Diction is the style of enunciation in speaking or singing. Doesn't matter if you're singing. I mean, if you're not singing, you're still enunciating words, hopefully. Some things to consider are try not to slur your words, because sometimes it's hard to understand. And then also give clear consonants, so make sure you're using your T's and S's, and make sure you're pronouncing everything in the word. Also, mouth formation is a big one. When singing classic Western art music, you need to make sure that you have a tall mouth shape and try not to spread the words. So if I were to sing something British, I wouldn't want to be talking American, singing American with a spread mouth. So when singing, you don't want to want people to know where you are from. That's a good way to put it. You want people to try to guess, maybe. And then if your mouth is spread, you will sound American, most likely. Also, breath support is a good one. Even if you aren't singing breath support, you need breath support to speak, because when you breathe in, you also need breath to talk as well. So this will be a good place to start, and maybe look back to when you guys are doing your activity later. Just keep these things in mind.
And these are good supporting themselves, because if you learn how to sing in a way that is non-descriptive, people can't tell where you're from, it'll help with accents,
Right.
doing different accents and vice versa.
So, before we move on to this activity, we want to ask you who will join with us through different stories, because we have many different stories, but first we need you guys to choose which side you're going to be on. So these are two different pictures representing two different stories that are part of skits that we all want you to do. And in the skits, we will like you to practice your diction and your pronunciation of words and accents as well as singing. So the first picture is a picture of a rundown old building, and it looks a little creepy, but you see it has all these different beds, and it looks like it's a hospital, but it's not a hospital. And then you have this picture where you have all this hole in the ground. It looks very dark. You have the roots hanging from, I guess you could call it the ceiling of the hole. And you have all these things hanging from it. Both of these pictures, like I said, represent two different stories. I'm sure you guys can kind of guess what this one is, maybe not that one. But I'm gonna give you a hint of what the rundown old building, what the part of the story is. And it's a radio show, so it's gonna have an ad. So I'm gonna read part of it, and you guys can kind of think about what it might be. Well, it's 5:45 now, and time to hear about her adventures, and all about Ovaltine too. And if you haven't tried Ovaltine yet, here's something I want to ask you. Do you get so fidgety and fussy in school that your teachers scold you for not paying attention? And then, when your report card comes, Do you get such poor marks that your mother and father worry about it and perhaps scold you too? Well, maybe it's not all your fault. You know, doctors say that some boys and girls don't get along so well in school, no matter how hard they try, because they're kind of nervous and high-strung. And if that's your trouble, perhaps Ovaltine's the thing to help you. And now for our adventure. Yesterday, Mr. Warbucks brought Annie, Joe, and Sandy home to the silos. And believe me, it was a mighty happy reunion. The only sad thing about it was that Daddy Warbucks had to go right back to New York. And right now, Annie and Joe are standing on the silo's back porch, looking across the farm and fields. And if you don't think they're glad to get back, listen to what Joe's saying now. So that was your little hint of what that was.
All right, I'm going to read the next summary. In a cloud of confusion, a mouse, rabbit, dodo bird, and girl strike up a conversation. The girl is so confused by it all and demands answers. So that's the part that we're going to be doing for the second script. All right, and if you guys will just try to think and see which one you guys want to do, and we're just going to go to spread out 4 people to each group and find a place in the back and choose a script.
I want to do
Want to do Amy? All right. Then I'll have you in charge of that and see which roles you guys want to do. And then here's the other one. I don't know if you guys decided which one it is.
Oh.
I also forgot to add that the second one is an opera, but but you don't have to sing it nice. You just have to basically sing random notes, but like make it into a character.
And
So-
you can make it a funny tune. It doesn't
Right.
have to be the actual tune.
Yeah. So we're gonna help the people out that don't have a 4th person. So if you want to go to that group, you can go to this one.
Okay, so this one room, Mr. Silo, there's some parts that
Oh,
are
that'll
really
be-
yellow,
It'll be Alice.
but then Mr. Silo's only red. So yeah,
The
there's
mouse
4 different
has
parts.
the
You guys have to
shortest
choose who's do which part.
Okay.
I think out of all of them, Annie has the most lines because of course she's the character.
I'm not sure.
So
It looks like it's.
I mean,
I kind of want to do it,
Yeah.
but if you want to.
even though Annie is American, you can practice your accent.
So I go through
Does
it.
Joe have a country accent?
Yeah, so
I
you
can,
have
I can do
country.
that comfortable.
You could do Southern Belle as well.
Just like
Just
sing it in
be
character,
creative
basically
with
like
your accents,
maybe
and
like
even though they are
What are you
American,
thinking
and
of? What?
usually she just
Maybe like
talks
a little
in a
mouse,
very
you know?
high pitched kind of not bland, but American accent.
Very good,
Just play around with it
What are you thinking of?
and make her something
I beg
else
your pardon?
beyond what she is on paper. So,
Oh.
because you're going to be reading this
Wait.
from
No.
back here, so that's going to be sitting with their back.
Please come back
So
and
they don't,
finish
the
your
only thing
story.
that they'll know about the character is how they sound. So
Okay.
reading this in front of everybody?
in the back. You're going to be reading in
Yeah.
the back.
So
with
they're,
the lines
they're,
in the
they're
back.
piecing together in their minds what the character looks like based on how the character sounds.
So like I said, this is a radio show script. So when you're doing a radio show, all you hear is the voice. You don't see the actors. You don't see the
I wish I
characters.
had my dino
So
with me.
you're going to be
She'd
reading
soon
it from
fetch,
the back.
fetch it back.
And then you hear it at the front.
I'm the coolest Dinah.
Our cat.
A cat. A cat.
I'm Mr. Silo.
Awesome.
You guys were supposed to say that at the same time.
Oh,
I'm sorry.
Do you have outside in here, or do you just get your
He goes a cat, and you guys both go a cat.
cat?
Oh.